This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. I'm Ryan Alford, your co-host, joined by my friend and my partner in business and life and everything friends do for each other. Chris Hansen is down in the Vacay Lounge in Miami. What's up, Chris?
What's up, my brother? How you doing today?
You know, the vibe is where it needs to be, and that's because we've got Ajit, best-selling author and the co-founder of multiple multi-million-dollar companies like Evercoach and the former CEO of Mindvalley. Ajit, what's up, brother?
Everything's good, man. The vibe's high, like this ad said. The vibe's good. I'm down here in Austin. Super excited to be talking to you guys.
Yeah, love it. Excited to talk to you, man. Always respected what Mindvalley did and what you did in building that company up and the journey. And, we like to raise the vibe here. We're like mindset, coaching, all this stuff. And look, we got to get one of the best coaches on the planet in. So we're checking the box.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We go big around here, keeping the vibe right. Ajit, let's set the table for everyone. I think we probably named a lot of entities that people were familiar with. Mindvalley is certainly a behemoth in the space, but would love to hear, set the table with your background and who is Ajit?
So, who's Ajit? That's a really complicated question to answer because it changes by where I am in life and how I would like to answer that question. But I'll give you a little bit of background of how I got here in a way more than who I am. And how I got here is I was born in India in a small town called Jaipur, lived with 23 people, shared space. It's called a joint family in India when that happens. Basically, a lot of people in a really small house. You're contained to a side of the bed, not even a room. And that was the early part of my life. I grew up in a really loving family that just didn't know how to create abundance around them in context of money and wealth. They were very abundant with love, which is a blessing. And with that narrative in my head of wanting to be abundant, I very early on got turned on to entrepreneurship and doing things that were a little out of the box. Because while I was an average student, this BC student, I was interested in learning new things. I was always intuitively curious as a person. So I was always interested in learning more. And very early on, I had the opportunity and the blessing of a teacher that shared with me that I don't have to take a traditional path. Now, just to know where I was coming from a really humble beginning, which effectively meant I was one of those, the way outs for my family to get out of that house of where they lived with 23 other people. And so me not choosing a traditional path was kind of a hard pill to swallow because the way we know how to get out or the way we knew how to get out was to take the traditional path. But I stayed curious. They stayed supportive to whatever degree they could. And that got me introduced early on to the career of media. And media was very exciting for me. I started working for a newspaper. I was good enough or curious enough that in about 6 months, I got a promotion to become head of their multimedia sales. So 6 months from then, I started a company with them. And a year from then, burned it down or kind of lost all their money in trying to build a social network when Facebook hadn't yet come to India. But then Facebook came to India and we kind of got obliterated because our technology was nowhere close or our vision was nowhere close to what they were building. So kind of stepped away from it, but stepped away with the idea of saying, hey, listen, there is media, of course, but there is this new media called the internet that I must consider and think about. This is like 2008 is when I'm going, this is something. Like this is going to be special. This is going to be something that's going to become a thing. And so I go around, I call my friends, I'm like, hey, listen, I want to really learn this, but nobody in India teaches this because in India, it was a new thing. It was one of those things that like, we don't even know how this works. So I was like, I need to find somebody who can teach me this. So one of my friends at that time was placed in Malaysia with another organization. And he said, hey, listen, I know this company. It's a tiny startup. It has like 10 employees, but their pitch is, come work with us for a year. We'll teach you everything internet. And you also get to, travel around Malaysia, which is a beautiful part of the world, but we pay like intern salary. So my salary would be $400 at the time, right? So they were like, well, it's bare minimum. You will survive. You will not be able to make or save anything really, but you will learn what you want to learn. So like, great, curious mind. I was like 25 at the time. I was like, sure, I'll do it. 2008, I moved to Malaysia to work with this really tiny company, which now you all know as Mindvalley. At that time, it was a 10-person small operation, mostly run like an agency where we built websites for different authors and took a percentage of all sales generated through the marketing system. And then as I joined Mindvalley, I got exposed to this whole idea of personal development, that you can set your mind to something and you can actually achieve it. That most of the things that we are taught in society as we grow up are actually wrong and actually unvalidated, or are built around a system of us having to do the things that are supposed to be status quo, but they're not actually how the world works, how, quote unquote, the universe works, how anything works around us. And so that turned me on to the idea of personal development. I already had some background in media. And with this new learning environment that I got into, I really realized that you could mix it all together and create something really powerful. Now, this was in partnership with the actual founder, which is Vision. And so at that time, again, it was a small company. The visions were big, but the capability was small or limited. So over the next 2000, about 7 or 8 years, about 7 years, over the next 7 years, from 2008 till 2015, I pretty much took every single role that you could have in Mindvalley. These are also the greatest growth years of Mindvalley. At that time, Mindvalley was not known as Mindvalley. It was a company behind many websites. We were building up to become Mindvalley. And then we first created what was called the Mindvalley Academy. And then we moved into Mindvalley.com. But that whole journey happened during the time where I helped build technology, helped build One, which is our meditation app, or used to be our meditation app, helped build many other divisions of launches and marketing and advertising, all that fun stuff. And then eventually ran the company for about 2 years as CEO of the company. And then eventually at that time, what had happened was, while I was building all of this, and I loved all of it, I loved my work, I had gotten really disconnected to my relationships. I had gotten really disconnected to my friendships. I had really gotten disconnected with myself, really. And so I had that dark night of the soul kind of a moment where over the Christmas holidays of 2014, I kind of realized that I have no friends. And I have nobody that I'm looking forward to meet except going back to work. And while that was not necessarily a bad thing, I realized how my life had become counter to everything that I preach, because I was running Mindvalley at the time, right? So it was like, I'm teaching about personal development. I'm talking about you can have it all, and all I have is a bunch of money and all the success. And I was like 31, 32 at the time, and being CEO of already a $40 million company was pretty significant, right? And it was a moment of pride for my parents and for me too, but nothing else was in order. And that really gave me that wake up call, where I said, I need to do something that is more honest to me and all of me, not parts of me. And so I kind of decided to tell Vision, hey, listen, buddy, I'm going to step away. I'm going to not be the CEO. We took some time to transition me out. So because when you're a CEO, it takes a minute to really get out of that role. And while we were taking that time, I also realized I can't just do everything and stop working. That's not me. That's a part of me. I really like what I do, and I don't do anything that I don't like or enjoy per se. And so that got me turned into the world of coaching, because I was using a lot of coaches at the time. I had a lot of health coaches, I had relationship coaches and different types of coaches, spiritual coaches. And because I was engaging with all these coaches, I realized, well, there's a problem in this entire community. Everybody is a coach, but nobody knows how to make money out of it. Or they are coaches, but they are doing the same thing they were doing 5 years ago. And that's a fundamental problem, that if the product doesn't get better, your business doesn't get better. So when a coach struggles, it's often because they are doing the same thing they were doing 5 years ago, and they have no skill in it, or they have whatever skill in it, but they never upgraded that skill. And more importantly, because they are not growing, they can't help their clients grow. And that gave birth to Evercoach, which is a coach training platform that we built. And then I got Vision as one of the investors in the business because we still loved each other and we still wanted to partner on things. That gave birth to my company Evercoach, which actually recently got acquired by Mindvalley. So now it's Mindvalley's coaching division. It just got acquired. By the time this podcast will come out, it'll be official. But as of now, it's already in works. So that's my work story until now. That's how I got here. That's what it is.
That's a great story. I didn't know. I don't know that it was public that Evercoach had been purchased by Mindvalley. It's amazing how it comes full circle. The power of those relationships and growing with the company.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting, I always have found it fascinating how many coaches there are now. And it's funny you say that about, not knowing how to make money and not knowing how to transform. It does seem as though there's a gluttony of that out there, like what's your process? I mean, how do you, working with so many coaches, what's the evaluation process? I know like you're trying to reach their greatest potential. Potential is such an interesting word, like what does differentiate one coach from the other and allow for that potential growth?
So every coach is wildly different and all of them have infinite potential. So one thing that we often think is what you see is what's the potential of a person. But that's not actually how potential is evaluated of a person. The capability of any individual is often infinite. It's often untapped and unrealized. And it is very hard to realize full potential of someone because potential is expanded by giving the right resources and resourcefulness to a person. So just because somebody is financially, say, not successful doesn't mean that they don't have the potential to not be successful. It means that they haven't acquired or engaged with the right resources or resourcefulness, right? And once that is added to that person, you would suddenly go, what happened? Like this person wasn't successful all their life and in 50s they have become successful. Or in 40s they have become successful. Some people get successful when they're 15 years old, right? It's not because the age is defining success. It's when the resources and resourcefulness finally tuned into the potential of the person. So all coaches are wildly potential. All human beings have infinite amount of potential that they have. What part of potential will they realize and will it reflect what they say is the question to ask, right? Yeah. So say, for example, and I don't know enough about it, Ryan, but say, for example, right now, you're realizing your potential in front of the mic, but you may not have realized your potential, say, in your relationship. I have no idea, right? I'm just hypothesizing here. Or yes. I may have realized my potential in my spectrum of coaching abilities, but have I really realized my potential in my tech abilities, right? So it's a choice that we make, and then we allocate resources to it. Often what happens is there's a small percentage of us who are so driven to the factors that define success as per the world standards that we think that anybody that is not meeting that standard is not realizing their potential, right? So if you interact with really aware individuals, and I'm sure you interact with a lot of them, the more aware the person is, the more clearly they have defined what success means for them. And often there's only money or fame is just one variable of it. And often they're not even a variable, right?
Yes.
The more you really sit down and talk to a person and more aware they become, more nuanced they become of how they define success. And because they are nuanced in the definition of success, their realization of success is different, right? Now, becoming a coach makes you very nuanced as a person, right? Because you are invited to ask questions that a normal person would never ask, right? And our way of training a coach is you don't straight away and go out coach people. The first person you always coach is yourself. So we train you in coaching yourself. So when you start to learn how to coach yourself, you become a very nuanced person. Not everything is 1 + 1 is 2. It has a whole direction of movement and a whole direction of a discovery that a person goes through, and they become more and more comfortable with what is really true for them. Like, think about my journey, right? It became important to me that I was doing things that I actually enjoy, and I don't do things if I don't enjoy them. I am not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I love it, right? And does that mean, Ajit, listen, you have the potential to build $1 billion company. A coaching company may not see that light, right? It has never been done before, clearly. Like, we're probably one of the largest coach training organizations today. We train about 10,000 coaches. We certify 10,000 coaches, right? I don't think there's any other company that does this kind of volume that we do, right? And still, we're probably scratched the surface. Like, we believe we should be training 1 million coaches. We have 8 billion people in the world. How do we make coaching accessible if there are not enough coaches in the world, right? And what is the future of humanity? If, let's say, AI was to do all the work, what are we left with? We are left with creativity, exploration of self, exploration of spirituality. What is the greatest resource you can have for it? Coaches. We don't train enough coaches, right? Now, what I'm really getting at is that there's always going to be unrealized potential. It has to be, because you will always make a choice. I could go build a tech company and probably hit $1 billion in valuation much faster than what I would do in a coaching company. But am I driven to do it? That's the question. Am I channeling my energy to it? Do I want to channel my energy to it? Now, the only factor that is concerning in humanity today, including with coaches, is that we often don't answer the question, where do I want to channel my energy? We are distracted. We are confused. We are lost. We are unsure. And we look at somebody else's success and think, maybe that's what I want, instead of asking ourselves, what do I want?
Yes. I know I wanted to talk to you. You've unpacked so many things. I'm about to go deep on you. All right.
Go for it, man.
No, I love it, because I ask these questions all the time. And, talking to Ajit, author of Live Big, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Passion, Practicality, and Purpose. We'll get to the book in a minute. But, this nature or nurture discussion, the 15-year-old that's a billionaire versus the 45-year-old, who's got the drive. And I love, you got one of my favorite words in one of your business, grit, baby. You can't teach grit, I don't think. I haven't ever been able to teach grit. I can teach resourcefulness a little bit, but grit, you can't teach. And so as we're talking about how people can level up, get to their highest vibe, like, how do you work with people that don't have natural grit? Like, is it nature or nurture? And, these are just heavy topics for me, Ajit, and thinking about it, because especially running companies and training people and doing the things that Chris and I have done, we work with a lot of different personality types, and that's just always something that's at the front of my mind. I love talking to smart people that have perspective on that.
So, Ryan, for me, it's grit or personal skills, overall soft skills are all nurtured. There might be some in nature, but they are nurtured. They're nurtured through your circumstances and the community you have around you when you're being nurtured for it, and how you're receiving that nurture. There is a little bit of nature, of course, because it's almost like there's soil and there's seed. The
Right.
seed is nurture, and the soil is nature. So if you don't have the right seeds, the soil can't do anything. And if you don't have the right soil, the seed can't do anything, right? So it's a balancing act of both.
Chicken
But I
or
do
the
feel
egg?
nurture it's chicken or the egg, right? But the whole thing is that if you really want to develop grit or any soft skill, you got to nurture it over a long period of time. So it's hard to develop later in life. It has to be developed more, not has to be, but it's easier to develop when you are younger. And by younger, it doesn't mean you have to be a kid. I do not subscribe to the idea where I think there's some research that suggests that a kid is fully developed by the age of 7, or their attitudes are fully developed by 7. I don't agree with that. My attitude has changed dramatically over the past many, many years, and continues to. If you'll meet me 3 years from now, it'll be completely different as well. And I've seen people around me all the time change their attitudes completely, flipped over, right? So I don't necessarily agree that you are developed by 7. I think you can nurture yourself until later. The fundamental that you must find within you is why you do what you do. And if you can find a strong enough why, you can find a nurturing process to it. Most of us will not find it because most of us will not have this inquiry. But here's the point with most of us. Most of us also are comfortable in the world that we are in. We may say we are uncomfortable, but we are comfortable even in the discomfort, right? And you might have noticed that about your friends. Usually I like this funny example that all of us have got that one friend that dates the same person again and again and again. You're like, why are you with it? It's just a different body and a different name. It's the same person. It's the same character. And that's because they are comfortable with the discomfort of being with that person, right? They have fallen in love with the idea of being in pain, right? They have love with the idea of being able to share a pain, right? So they have made a choice to stay, for lack of a better word, lack of a better way to explain this, but in the average or below average. Right. The curious thing that we must have, you, me, and anybody that is listening to this podcast, is, are we average? If the answer is no, because I would believe if you're listening to this podcast, your answer is no, because your vibe's high, right? So you gotta be, the answer is gotta be no, right? Which means you're an extraordinary individual. It means that you may already possess the ability to say, I can nurture an attitude in me. It'll take me a year, maybe 3, maybe 5. It doesn't matter. But I know that, say if you're 40 years old right now, you live on to 90, you have more of your life ahead of you than what you have lived. You have a better life ahead of you than what you have lived. If you're listening to this podcast, your focus is health and well-being. You're likely to live to 100 or more, right? Depending on how young or old you are and how science develops going forward, but 100 or more, right? If you live to 100, you have most of your life ahead of you if you're 40, right? The only development years have gone. Why wouldn't you nurture a new attitude? You have more life to go. If you're 50, you still got half your life. Even if you're 60 and you're listening to it, you still got 40 more years to go. Why wouldn't you invest 5 years in nurturing an attitude that gets you to live the best of your life now, right? Our chase has become too average. And that's the problem with us often, is we try to find, what's the standard? How can I meet the standard? Ask the question, what's extraordinary for me? And you will set the standard. And I think that's the question that we must all ask when we are listening to such conversations. Well, what's my standard? How am I defining my extraordinary, and what am I going to do, or what do I need to become that extraordinary? And you will find skills, attitudes, expressions that you need to do and need to have. And for that, you nurture it. And it will take time. Everything is a skill. Everything in this world is a skill. You want to heal your relationship? You can. You want to become more confident? You can. You want to become healthier? You want to become an athlete? You can. You want to be a billionaire? You can. All of it is very possible to develop if you put time, energy, and focus towards it over an extended period of time.
Yes. Fascinating. Words of encouragement. I think if you're listening, you can change anything you want, but the one thing I always struggle with is you can't make people want it.
Yeah,
sometimes I want it for someone, and like you can take them to the water and you could dunk their head in. They still don't drink it. But you know what? But it's selfish because I'm probably dunking the head in the water I want them to drink,
Exactly.
And that's my problem. But, I digress. This is what we do. Chris, questions, thoughts for Ajit?
My mind is racing. It's because we're hitting the deep points here, but I tend to completely agree because I'm looking at my own life and evolution, and everything you've said, I completely agree with. Where when you said, 3 years from now, you're going to be probably different than you are now. And I've seen that in my life because I've even made changes that 3 years ago, I didn't think I would change, or I wasn't ready to at that point. But it's almost, and Ron, we've talked about this, like acting as if. It's like you have to, for me, like I had a vision of who I wanted to become and the traits and how that person acted. And one I kept thinking of when we were talking is patience. And that's what I've just worked on, is just be less reactive. Like especially with business, there's always challenges where it's like, don't give it so much of your energy, like accept it, let it come in, flow out, keep moving. And that's something I've seen progress in my own life, but it takes that awareness of even identifying the problem to begin with. And that's half the battle, like Ryan said, is unless I can recognize, all right, I don't have the answers, but I also need to take the action on figuring out, all right, well, what can provide this evolution, this change, whatnot. So I'm soaking it all in right now, man. I think there's just so much value coming out of this.
Ajit.
Thank you, Chris. And you're so right that it takes certain level of patience to develop a new skill, a new capability. It's not something that just happens because we wish that would happen. You just press a button on how you install the software in a computer. You could just install it in yourself. That's just not how life is, and it is what builds the attitude of a person is the amount of grind one is willing to do to be able to build that skill, that capability, to be able to become that extraordinary individual that they choose to be. And hey, listen, we all get to make that choice. And Ryan, you're so right that you can take the person to the pond and you can try to shove their face in the water and they will still not drink it. And it's more about us than it's about them. And it's also because of that reason is why they will hate you for doing it, right? So you got to become real mindful of saying that my journey is mine, their journey is theirs, and what I really want to be. And that's what a coach is in anybody's life, is we are not there to even mentor you. You see, most of us, if we would have the right person just standing by us, is all we would need, because we have the courage, we have the capability, we have the potential, we got it all of us. None of us is bar none. Everybody's got it. I know it sounds really just motivational, but it is true. I've found no person in my life that I could not see potential in. Like I have a problem maybe, but that's literally anybody I know. Like, that's amazing. You are such an amazing person. And at the same point of time, my job is to give them company. My job is to be on their side because nobody else is. My job is to make sure that they know they are being seen, they're being heard, they're being understood, they're being supported with the right tools when need be. But my job is not to show them the way because they already know the way. My job is to be the support they need when they are on the way. And that's what a good coach does. A good coach doesn't say what I want you to do. It shows them that I'm with you when you want to do what you want to do.
I love it, Ajit. Talk to me about how, you've built these companies, to the highest level. You've just, transacted again with Evercoach, going to Mindvalley. What's your everyday now? Like, what's your focus? Who do you work with? How do you work with them? How are you, making an impact every day this time?
So right now I'm in a season of life where I'm, of course, in the transitionary phase. So I have a lot of space. I give myself space when I'm in transitions to let what needs to be unfolded. Apart from that, I maintain about 3 business clients at any given time, business or life/business clients, because most of my clients are also individuals, CEOs, and founders. So I maintain no more than 3 clients at any given time, just because I don't have the time availability for it. Plus, the tier I coach at, I don't want to work with everyone. It's just not possible. And thirdly, what takes most of my time is now educating coaches. And that does take most of my effort. Again, like I mentioned, we train about 10,000 coaches a year. And for that to happen, I train myself personally in some of our programs. So people are directly trained through me in how to coach and get resolve situations and all of that. The development of all the curriculum and everything comes directly through me as well. We really pride ourselves in creating some of the best products in the market. Like, do you understand what an NPS score is or a Net Promoter Score is?
Yep.
Your tribe know.
Yeah.
What should I explain?
Yeah, 1 to 10 rating. If you get a 9 or a 10, you're doing the right thing. If it's not, you got other discussions, right?
Yeah, so you can go either from -10 to +10, or you can go to -100 to +100. Like however your measure is, it's like you do a scale of 1 to 10 or do a 10 to 100, whatever the scale is. But basically, what an NPS or Net Promoter Score is basically us able to evaluate people and say, hey, if you were to recommend this to your friend, how likely are you to do so? Which is an interesting thing, right? It's not only you're saying, oh, this is awesome, which is easier to say, versus say, no, this is awesome enough that you would tell somebody about it, right? And usually online programs go to a net promoter score of 30. People think they're crushing it when they hit a net promoter score of 50, 40, 50, right? That's when people think that's a really good net promoter score. Our certifications are 84,
Wow.
right? The only other product we know of right now that may have a higher net promoter score, two products were the iPhone when it came out and Tesla when it came out. Neither of them have a 90 plus promoter score right now, I think. But when they came out, Tesla had a 91. I think iPhone had a 90 or something like that, or 87, something like that.
It was 90. I
These are the
worked on
only
it.
other
The
products.
first launch.
Yeah, the first launch, right?
Yes.
And we have been maintaining those net promoter scores for the past 3.5 years since we've started certifying people. So we really take pride in what we do, and we're really personal about it. So that does take a lot of my time, but that's something that I love. So I absolutely love doing it and enjoy that as my majority of my time. But I also don't work very, very much. So that may be one of the reasons why I have very few things on my plate. I work maybe 5 hours a day for 4 days a week.
Yeah. Well, you've put the time in building these companies. So it's good. You can take it at your own pace now. Ajit, like what's a day?
Most founders can. Most founders can do that. It's just they don't realize that the job of a founder is to not be the employee of the company. That's the organization.
Yeah.
They need to exit the organizational structure. You have to get to a certain level, of course, for it. But even if you're doing a few million annually, you need to be out of the organizational structure of the business. You're actually creating a bigger mess than you think.
100% agree.
I'm talking generally for founders, not for you, Ryan. I'm saying generally for founders.
No, it's okay. I get out of the way. Chris does too. We're both sort of out of the way of our daily businesses for the most part.
Yeah.
Our biggest thing. So I couldn't agree more. With Vibe Science, we're trying to elevate people to, embracing a lot of stuff we've been talking about, how to improve themselves and the process for that. I mean, what has been your own journey? It seems like you've had, like you said, you change a lot. You've had self-improvement. What are the things that you've done to elevate your vibe, to make, what you consider yourself a better functioning coach of coaches and just executive?
I think the most important thing I realized much later in life, I'll be honest, is I think it was putting focus on my health and well-being. I realized this much later in life, not that I'm really old, but for what I was already. I think ever since I started focusing on my health, my business has become 10x. Is because I think that's one of those things that we think and we take for granted until something happens. And it happened for me because I have a son and a daughter. And when I had my daughter, I had an opportunity to hang out with my son one of the afternoons. And in Austin, it gets real hot in summer. And we had just had our daughter, and my wife was with the daughter. And I was like, come on, let me take you out. And it was like July. So it was hot as hell there. But we were out and we were playing, we were running around. And as we run around, I started breathing really heavy. And I was maybe 10 minutes that I played with him, like running around playing tag. It wasn't like something crazy we were doing, just playing tag with the kid who was 3. So I started breathing real heavy. And as I was breathing really heavy, I kind of wanted a break. And I said, listen, we've played for a bit. Let me take a break. And I said, I'm tired. And my son, Ari is his name. Ari looks dead in my eyes. And like a true coach tells me, you're always tired. And that hit hard. That hit different. I was like, wow, as a father, am I always tired? Right. And I'm sure he's told that to me before that and after that as well, because it wasn't like I changed the next day. It doesn't happen that way. Right. You got to still work on your body and your health. And I just realized that's not the father I ever wanted to be. That's not the person I ever wanted to be. Somebody who's tired in the middle of the day, couldn't run without a 3-year-old for more than 10 minutes. Thought that was a terrible way to live. And so it kind of gave me that wake-up call. It had nothing to do with business. Business was doing fine. I was doing fine generally. But that wake-up call kind of shook me up, and I went, damn, I need to do something about this. This is not the life that I want. I've always made choices in my life to give me the greatest joy. This is definitely not my greatest joy. And so I started focusing on my health, and boy, oh boy, life has been different after that. Like the energy level that I get to have, the amount of focus and clarity and speed of work, all of that is just incredible. So one of the greatest things I think, and usually not recognized until shit hits the fan, is health. And I think that's probably should be the number one focus of an entrepreneur who wants to be successful.
Yes.
If you want to be successful, you better go to the gym, man. If you want to be successful, you better eat right. You better take your supplements. You better keep your body in check. You biohack the shit you need to biohack. Sorry, I don't know if I can say those words.
Oh,
but
fuck yeah.
I'm from your vibe. Yeah, like from your vibe, it feels like I can. But yeah. So that's I think that's where the buck is not realized, and it's very important. So that's something that I've been working on for the past 3 years, and it's been phenomenal for me. It's completely changed me. But I'm always working on something. Like recently, I'm doing this endurance thing where it's about solitude, but for an extended period of time. Like men love solitude, right? We could totally go quiet for 30 minutes, right? But what if you were to do that for 12 hours? So that's one of the things that I did recently is to walk for 12 hours with absolute solitude, which means no podcast, no music, nothing, just you and your thoughts. Most men cannot do it. So I do extreme things like that to expand my horizons and ask myself very different questions to say, where is that edge? What's the next edge? Where's the next edge? And as you stay curious towards it, you find the development is in different areas of life. So every time I find something, it usually is in a different dimension. You do something crazy, it may feel like you're doing it at health, but something else explodes because of that, right? Explode in a good way, right? You're working on your relationship and suddenly you become a better coach sometimes because that takes a tremendous amount of patience, right? You're trying to be a better parent and suddenly you're a great speaker because try holding attention of a 3-year-old, right?
Yes.
So you never know what leads to what.
I have 4 boys under the age of 13, so I know.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yes.
You're in it.
Oh, I'm in it, baby. I'm in it. I got a couple questions that start to get down the work path because, I sense your patience. And I think you might can use, the context of the book, author of Live Big, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Passion, Practicality, and Purpose. Maybe through the lens of the book, maybe not. But I sense this patience with you. I sense you as a leader that nurtures his teams. I sense that about you, but I often wonder how you balance that when you're trying to grow and you're trying to go, baby, and with people and stuff like that. So I always, be curious how you managed, high stress, high drive, trying to grow this company, trying to do these things, but yet being patient and nurturing and all of those things. It seems like it's a delicate balance.
It's definitely a dance. I think the way it works for me, and it's different for individuals, but the way it works for me is I set myself up for 10-year visions. I don't do year-long goals. I do have year-long goals for my team for them to be informed of what they're working on, and then they're broken down by month and day and everything. So there's craziness in the day if you look at my team, but there is no craziness in the day if you look at me, because I'm chasing a 10-year dream.
Yes.
And what I've found is the more you chase 10-year dreams, the easier it is to realize. And the faster they are to realize. Because often what my 10-year dream is often gets realized in anywhere between 3 to 5 years. This is the trend I have seen for myself, which is also why in about 7 to 8 years, you will see Ajit has completely changed what he was doing, right? So before the Mindvalley cycle, I was in the media world and with the organizations where it wasn't about money, it was about doing something good for humanity completely. That was my first 7-year cycle. My second 7-year cycle was Mindvalley. I went to all the way to the top. My third 8-year cycle approximately is Evercoach. So it's usually because I've achieved the goal I set out for. Right, so I've seen a rhythm in my work, and so I've gotten patient with life because of that. Because I know I'm chasing which seems impossible when I start. So when we started Evercoach, coaching was not a thing. Coaching was a scam that people ran, or at least that's how it was viewed as an industry, right? It was like people were basically little pockets of people trying to do little things. There was nobody who was really saying this is an actual thing. It wasn't developed like personal development is today. It wasn't mainstream at all. But now you see coaches everywhere. And we believe part of the reason is us because we came out of nowhere and we made a 10-year vision of saying, no, we'll train hundreds of thousands of people in this ability to coach. themselves or people around them because it's a required skill. It's not an optional thing. It's as good as meditation. For that matter, it might be better because it's conversational and you can use it without having any prejudice around it. Like you could just have a good conversation and be able to go deeper into a conversation. That's coaching 101, right? So that's kind of where the passion comes from, is because I'm not chasing anything for this year. I'm always chasing for 10 years from now. And that's where my conversation or purpose comes in the book as well. It's find the passion that you have and live in a living purpose. A living purpose is a purpose that is ever expanding. Because if you choose a purpose and think that's the definition of life, you'll never really evolve with it. You will actually almost resist it because you're like, oh, I'll meet my purpose and that won't be a good day because I'll die after. You don't want to do that. You want to have a purpose that is, yes, big and big enough, but attainable. So you actually go, okay, I can actually get this done in 10 years. You know, this job, this task I've taken on my hands today, I can do it in 10 years. And because I have 10 years, I can be patient today. But at the same point in time, I know my team's not going to think 10 years. They would love to be associated with a company that has a 10-year vision because that gives them job safety and job security, right? They go, oh, they have a 10-year vision, which means they're going somewhere. They're not just going for the next buck, right? Which gives them this ease of leaning in, especially when they're not young and not old, like in the 30s, when people are planning their families. That's when people want a little bit more balance in their jobs. They want to be like, and those are the right kind of people. Those are my kind of people, the people I want to hire, because you need to know the new technology, but you don't need to be that expensive that I can't afford you or I can have only one of you, right? Because these are startups usually at a certain level, right? So these are the people that I'm talking to. And because these are the people I'm talking to, I want to give them the certainty of, oh, your 10-year career is secure till the time you believe in where I'm going. And that's also why team members that I hire and people that work with me have an average stay time of 5 to 7 years. That they stay with me or stay with my company is 5 to 7 years, which is really good for today's time. Because today's average is, I think, 18 months right now or something like that. I could be wrong about the percentage. It's much shorter than it used to be. So anyway, so that really brings me to become patient today. But I know that a team member after a day will forget the 10-year vision. They don't have the patience. They don't need to have the patience. They're not me. What they need is excitement in today. And for them to feel excited, I need a short-term, immediate, I think it's, I don't know how to say it, but some kind of a hit. Sorry, it's just like a drug analogy.
Yeah.
I've never even taken it, but
the dopamine
like
hit?
Dopamine hit. That's probably a better way to say it. Like, it sounds so garbage as I say it. But yeah, so dopamine hit. They need to feel that today I did something that moved me forward in my life.
Yeah,
motivation. They need something
validate.
to drive them.
Yeah.
Validation. They need validation of their work being done today and being achieved today. And for those purposes, you need to give them something that's more immediate. And they need to feel connected to that immediate and to the long term, right? So it's a dance of, like you beautifully put it, it's the dance of having patience of I'm building something, and building anything takes a long time. Something, I mean, you can build a quick course business really quickly. Of course, you can put up a website and throw a bunch of things on it, but something that is like has real meat takes a while to build. It's not just, you have to almost reimagine the whole thing and ask yourself really different questions to be able to say, this is broken, how do we fix this? And how do we make this better for everyone? And as a result of it, I'll make some money, right? So that's kind of the approach, and that's the dance.
Yeah. I like to say impatient on the tactics and the discipline, but patient on the results.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it.
Yes. Talking with Ajit, author of Live Big, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Passion, Practicality, and Purpose, and the former CEO of Mindvalley. Chris, any thoughts as we're getting down to our time here with Ajit?
I'm like ready to sign up, become a coach. I'm ready to after I hear that 80 score, I'm like, all right, what's the formula? I'm curious. But I mean, dude, I'm probably friends with many people that have been through y'all's coaching program. I mean, there's many coaches we talk to too. I'm curious to learn more about just y'all's approach, especially like you said, there's so many coaches and so many different ways people are, really trying to help people ultimately. I think everyone's got good intentions, but obviously your guys' reputation speaks for itself. And, I believe in that. There's a reason you guys are this large, where it's become a very crowded space, and you got some people probably jumping in to take advantage. But that's where, and to our listeners, you're not new to this, right? You didn't just start Instagram last year and start selling a course for $9.99 a month and a ChatGPT fitness plan. So, and I think that's important to also help people look for the right resources. And that's what we're really trying to do here too, is steer people in the right direction, because the hardest part is leading them to water. But when they get to that water, I want to make sure that we're providing them too with the best possible places to go when they are ready for that empowering journey of self-growth and development. So I'm just a big fan of what you guys are doing, and excited for what I think it's going to compound into, not just here, but around the world. And, hopefully literally shine light on the world in a more positive way.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Yes, absolutely. That is our intention. We want to, like you, we want to be able to support more and more people to be able to support themselves, and of course, be able to support humanity, because I think we as society will continue to evolve, and consciousness and awareness towards how we evolve, what we can do to support each other's evolution is going to always be very, very important for us to be able to stay as a thriving society. Otherwise we could we can also lose our way. We are not it's very possible. And so that's where we like to play our role, is we say, if we can make everybody just more aware, and be able to coach themselves, and that's why it's so important to us, they will be able to find their own way, and I'm sure it'll be the right way. So for anybody that may be interested in that, just go over to mindvalley.com/certs, CERTS. That would be a good spot for you to learn more about our different certifications. Like I said, there are many that we have. It totally depends on what your desire is and what you want to specialize in.
Yes. I mean, my biggest takeaway, Ajit, because I'm the cynic of the Chris and Ryan team. You might can sense it. And not because of you, but I'm a cynic of like the whole coaching industry, because of, like you said, like what happens, and people trying to make a quick fix and don't know how to do it. But what really hit me and dawned on me when you said it, one of the most powerful gifts and abilities someone can have would be able to coach and help someone else. Like, that's so simple. But like, hearing you say that and frame it the way you did, I was like, that's right. Because it's not about ourselves. It's about, can I teach and can I uplift others, and it's a skill. It's not natural. It's just not everyone's just knows how to do that. And so I thank you for that, Ajit. And I'd love for you to share any final thoughts and how everyone can keep up with everything you have going on.
Absolutely. Well, I really invite you to continue to listen to this podcast and many podcasts like this that you enjoy, because even if you're not taking any formal training, a lot of times we need the daily motivation, the daily upliftment, and conversations like these help. So I invite you to consider that and continue to do so. I also invite you, if you are a reader and you'd like to read my book, I want to offer you a free copy of it. Just go over to downloadlivebig.com, downloadlivebig.com, and you can just go over there, enter your name and email. I'll send you the PDF of that copy, so you can get that book absolutely for free, and there's no charge to it. And you automatically subscribe to a newsletter. Again, I don't sell anything. This is just me, my musings. You can think about it that way. Like, what am I thinking about that week? What's present to me? So there are a bunch of techniques in there. Sometimes there are strategies. Sometimes there are business ideas. It's just a newsletter that I want to develop for sharing my ideas more freely. Apart from that, if you're an Instagram kind of person, go over to Real.Coach.Ajit. That's my Instagram handle, and I'd love to hang out with you there. And if you lose the link at any point, go to Real.Coach.Ajit, and I'll send it to you in your DMs. All right, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure talking to y'all.
Yes, we'll have links to all of that on the show notes, and of course at vibesciencepodcast.com. We thank Ajit, and for Chris Hansen, coming to you from the Vacay Lounge in Miami, I'm Ryan Alford. We'll see you next time on Vibe Science. The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.